Thank you for tuning in to Business School, the official podcast of the Dan Roberts Academy.
Hello, so thanks for tuning in. Today we talk about video. An incredibly important element of running a business nowadays is understanding video. It's a key tool to help you really connect with your customers, to reach out to new customers, to share your brand story, to really create your brand story. Video is here to stay, obviously, and I think we've seen over the last 2 years since the pandemic that being online is an essential part of any healthy business. It's only going to be an increasing part, and the better you understand and utilize and really use and take advantage of video and get better at video, the better your business will be. So with that in mind, I bring on, I think, the top UK expert in terms of fitness video production, a guy called Richard Playfair. Now, his company, Sweatlife Films, actually works with some major players in the UK fitness industry. Team Beachbody, he helps create videos and market them. Les Mills, who else? Muscle Food, UK Active, and also lots of boutique smaller companies he works with too. So he really is knowledgeable. Also, he's an ex-trainer, so he understands it's not just about making a trendy video. He understands what video's for. It's to help really share your message, whatever that message may be, to help really connect with your audience. And today is a really fascinating conversation. It's a long conversation. I really pick his brain and we discuss all kinds of things. We discuss some of the technical side of making films in terms of the cameras to use and the settings to use and the lighting and the speakers and how to make sure the video production is kind of good and how to do it on the cheap. We'll also talk about being in front of the camera. I don't know about you, but I've gone from terrible to acceptable over the years just from exposure, but there are much more quicker and effective ways of getting good and confident and I guess charismatic and comfortable in front of the camera. And we share stories, me from my own experience just being in lots of productions, and him as an expert actually advising trainers on set, because trainers aren't actors or presenters, and sometimes it's quite nerve-wracking. For a lot of people I know, a lot of trainers who are maybe my age or older find it really scary, the idea of doing an Instagram story or going live on Facebook, because we haven't really done that. I mean, if you're 16, you go live all the time, but for those older people, it's quite tough. It's a bit of a culture shock in a way. So we talk about how to build your confidence and how to get better, what ways there are to practice, and we share lots of practical tips for that. We also talk about the art of branding and creating products and how video fits into that. And, it's, we just have a chat. I mean, I must say, this is one of the most practical episodes I've recorded. Lots of tips. I ended up going shopping as well at the end of this episode, which I talk about, and I buy some of the things he recommends. So hopefully this won't be too expensive a show for you. But yeah, Richard's full of knowledge. He's an interesting guy. And you'll definitely get a lot from this. If you run a business, which I assume you do, if you're watching this podcast, if you're listening to it, then you will find this very practical and very useful. All right, Rich, welcome.
Thanks. Good to be here. Good to chat, as always.
Yeah, thank you so much. So for people listening, I know Richard via LinkedIn, and you're always giving such good advice for trainers and coaches and gym owners regarding videos and branding. You're always like sharing. And when I created this Business School podcast, I made a list of all the people, all kind of subjects I wanted to talk to people about, from finances, accounting, scaling. And when it came to video, you were like my number one choice. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And hopefully we can sort of tap into your many years of expertise today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good to hear that I'm regarded so highly on your list.
I might be just shit at creating lists, so don't take it too much of a compliment. But let's talk about just video in general. Like, why is video more powerful than words, do you think?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's something that I've thought about a lot since I started doing this, because I never really fell into the video game, particularly in the fitness industry, because it was like a calling. I actually kind of fell into it by a bit of accident, because I used to be a trainer. Before I was a trainer, I worked in the very beginnings of social media and video on mobile. And the two just came together while I was a trainer, and I thought, well, there's an opportunity here to do this. But why is it working so well now? And I like to almost think of myself as a little bit of a philosopher when it comes to video, because I find myself thinking about these things quite a lot. Like, why does this actually work? Right. And I think a lot of it comes down to like behavioral psychology, doesn't it? Understanding what our brain work, how our brains work, why we're drawn to certain things and why we're repelled from others. And I think you can boil it down to maybe two things. One, we're lazy inherently as human beings, right?
Increasingly, yes.
So we're like everything else in the universe, right? We want zero entropy, right? We want zero energy. We want to be at rest. And the other thing is video is effortless, right? So watching a video is just, you press play and you can multitask at the same time. You can just listen to it. You can look at it, and that people often say, you know, a picture is 1,000 words or whatever it is. And it's true. We're conditioned, thanks to these amazing contraptions called eyes, to be able to absorb lots of information very quickly using our ears and our eyes together. And that makes us inherently lazy at learning, right? It's effortless, really. You just have to pay attention for a bit and you absorb information. And I don't know how long the television's been around, probably a couple of 100 years, if that. And if we weren't conditioned to absorb information via televisions or screens, probably wouldn't exist anymore, right?
True.
It would probably disappeared, and we would have, you know, developed telepathy or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just because we're lazy, and it's the quickest way to consume information, and that's why it works.
And there's so much information nowadays that we need to be quite quick at discerning the information and getting what we need from it.
Yeah, and we can do that quite acutely, right? We do it almost subliminally sometimes. Like we have confirmation biases based on what people look like, whether we want to listen to them or not, whether they fit into kind of like our perceived circle of peers, like on initial interaction and how we look at them. So yeah, that's where language comes in, I guess, isn't it? It's understanding how to use language alongside video, or let's simplify that a bit more and just say sound. How do we use sound and video together to get people's attention quickly? And that's really the art of video production, I guess.
It's very interesting. I mean, I do think in this age of where kind of personal branding is so kind of like part of our lives as well, when you're talking about the information, when you do a video, like if I do a video for 30 seconds and I explain something, I'm not just sharing that information. I'm sharing what I look like, what I sound like, my passion, my energy or lack of. It's giving a lot of information, not just my words, as it were. And it's very hard to do that on text.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you're communicating in many ways when it's on video.
Yeah, and if we contextualize this, if we talk a little bit about how trainers, for example, can use video, there are a couple of things to unpack there, isn't there? There's like camera confidence, there's authenticity in front of the camera, there's being able to get to the point, deliver something valuable. I mean, this video in itself is really just a tactic, right? It's just a way of communicating.
Yeah, it's a tool. Yeah,
it's a tool. So it's a very effective way of doing it, but in the same way that blog posts are, podcast episodes are, it's all content. It's just some are more acutely suited to different situations than others. It just so happens that video is more a powerful way, because like we said before, if you don't want to watch, you can just play the audio, but then the audio has to make sense as well. Like you have to contextualize what you're explaining well, so people could multi-purpose it into a podcast or just have it on the background while they're doing something else. So if we think about the way that trainers almost see video as a bit of a hurdle, it's because they're probably overwhelmed by all of those things, right? I want to make sure it's good. I don't want it to reflect badly on me. I want to come across as professional but authentic.
It's stressful. It's much easier to be like, rather than doing that, that story on Instagram, I'll just write a blog post. I'll spend 3 hours writing a blog post because it's more in their comfort zone. And I see that a lot, particularly with trainers like above 35.
Yeah, and let's not discount the importance of blog posts, because with SEO nowadays, it's a fundamental part of anyone's marketing strategy. It's just that you have to approach how you deal with content in different ways. But it's I'm increasingly more aware of it being a problem now, because people either opt into my camera confidence course, which is what I'm developing at the moment, or they ask me on the Facebook group, how can I do this? Or I give people feedback based upon how they present. That's part of my job. That helps people present better to camera for productions and fitness videos. And it's almost like, because this is in our pocket nowadays, and it's so easy just to flick on and do it.
Yeah.
The barrier entry, the cost to entry is practically zero, isn't it?
Yeah.
The only price you pay is the worry that you're not doing something right? Is that
And the 200 takes of trying
and
to be
delete.
fresh and authentic. Yeah.
Yeah, and it puts people in a very difficult position. But there's some good news with regards to research around that, and that's that a lot of user generated content gets a lot more eyeballs quicker than the highly polished, highly produced content that hits social media as well, depending on what the content is, of course, right? So if you're advertising a product or a trailer to a program, then you probably want it to be quite high value, because you're going to use it in lots of different places. But if you're going onto Instagram every day and you want people to see or connect with you and get an understanding of what you're like and relate to you and build that, likability, the trust factor, because you hope to draw people in, eventually they'll buy from you, then the best way you can do it is yourself on the phones, because people see that quality of content and go, well, that's kind of the quality of content I put out. So it feels kind of real.
Yeah.
So there's an immediate
more relatable
trust.
Yeah.
That's almost accelerated by being crap, well, not crap, but lower produced, right?
Like a bit shaky and just a bit like a normal conversation, not like a script you're reading out in a monotone voice. You're just talking.
Yeah.
Feels more real.
And I think we've been in, like, how long have we had these sort of phones now? A decade or something that's quite capable of making good video. If you turn towards the sun, you make sure you're lit properly and the sun's not behind you shining into the camera. If you can get close enough to the phone or use a little external mic, you've already elevated your production standards to a level which surpasses the majority of content out there.
I want to explore that in a bit more detail, but also to give some context. I mean, obviously the people listening in or watching this are obviously keen on improving their video skills in some way. Otherwise, why would they click on this podcast? They know who I am, they know who you are. Now, let's just break it down into the different ways a fitness professional, a small gym owner or personal trainer, yoga teacher could use video for their business. So let's think about it. So they could obviously there's social media, that's one place, but also we could have it on their website. But even within their website, there's a few different places, there's a few different types of videos, right? On a website, you've got, let's think about it. You've got like sales videos and lead videos to actually help convert a sale or to book a consultation. You got videos, maybe testimonials. I'm trying to think what else. You've got, what I use video a little bit for mine is just to give a general vibe. So I've got some like videos like as banners just to give a vibe of what I'm about as a company. I think so. Can we talk about those different things in a little bit more detail and actually get your advice on what works, what doesn't? So let's think about first sales videos.
Okay.
Like if you're trying to sell like an ebook or something, how should, if someone's never done this before, how should they go about? They know they have to create a video because they know video converts better than just text. But what things should they think about in your experience?
All right, we'll take one little step back first, and we'll use like the summary for television that the BBC used to use. That was like to educate, to inform, and entertain, right? Those are the kind of three things you ever do with any sort of content, right? So if we distill that further in regards to selling a product or service, there are really 4 ways that you can use video, right? And you said some of them are there already. So you want to convert people into being a customer, right? You're providing them with information through video to help them accelerate that choice and that decision to buy. Then you've got other types of videos which are based around objections. So they may be considering buying from you, but they've got some thoughts that have not completely allowed them to be convinced by you at this point, or don't believe in your product.
Like you're not legit, or you're too expensive, those kind of things.
Yeah. Or maybe the product won't even work, or the service won't even work for them, right? So there's really 3 sort of like inhibitors when it comes to objections. One is this idea that whatever you're selling to me, I don't believe that'll work for me, or I don't believe I'm going to stick at it. It will work for me, or I don't believe that, it's the decision that I should be taking. There are other options out there.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's overcoming objections. You need to address those sort of areas. So anyone who's stuck and is not ready to buy wants those answered first. And they're often forms of questions, right? So websites always have commonly asked questions on. Well, you can do commonly asked videos, right, to answer those questions. Another one is, and that's one of the areas where I tell most people to start with video. Address all of the questions that you always ask every day. Why? Because it takes up lots of your time to answer them all the time.
On my sales page, I've got a few sales pages within my website, and I often have FAQs at the bottom. I have my kind of video where I explain what the product's all about and why I set it up and who's it for. But then the FAQs are just in text, and maybe it'd be more powerful when they clicked a question. There was like me popping up and sharing an answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
A bit more relatable, isn't it? A bit more interesting.
Yeah, and it's once again, it's frictionless, right? So people are more likely to watch a video than read a block of text.
Yeah.
Especially if it's got a title, I know you've got questions and here are your answers.
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, okay, cool. Let me see if you've got my answers there.
Good idea. I like this.
Okay. So you got objections to overcome, retention. Like, how do you keep existing customers coming back for more? Well, you need to use video content to keep that connection with them, to update, inform, and entertain them of new things you're doing, right? In an effortless, frictionless way. And the other one is engagement. And that's what everyone's looking for at the moment, right? Everyone's looking for some sort of engagement, and video being the accelerant to do that, because it's easy to watch, right? So if we scramble all those words up, then we come up with CORE, which is CORE: conversions, objections, retention, engagement. And that's one of the things I help my clients with, is the core video strategy, figuring out the content that you need to make that surrounds your business, that answer those questions, that help to convert sales, that help to keep your customers coming back for more, and help you get that engagement, which is what everyone's looking for at the moment, because a lot of people just kind of feel lost in the ether of social media.
Yeah.
And all their efforts are going to wasted. You know, they're not being found, or they feel like they're putting in a lot of hard work with not a lot of results. And that kind of ties in once again to content, right? People struggle sometimes to think of the content that they should be producing, and they find themselves in this trap of almost creating just vanity videos all the time. You know, them training, them doing exercises.
That's the majority of the fitness industry seems to be doing that. So I don't know if it's a conscious choice. I think it's just people don't know what to post, and they see what other people post and they copy that.
I absolutely agree with you on that, because no one has taken everybody to marketing school in the fitness industry, right? It's kind of like something the freelancers have been left to do at their own devices.
Yeah.
No one's ever kind of like, here's a strategy that you can use. And even now it's not that common, because you see a lot of people going, here's the shortcut to Facebook ads to getting 1K a month from every client you've got, right? There's lots of that.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, here's how you need to think about what you do and how to push out your content there with the strategy. So it just kind of runs on autopilot, right? And you don't, this is the idea that you have to just create loads of content around everything to do with fitness to cast this big net. So eventually you'll draw one or two people in from this massive net and land a whale or a well-paying customer, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, if you're not qualified in nutrition, if nutrition isn't part of your business, why are you posting about nutrition? Because if the people that are tuning into nutrition stuff really need a nutritionist help, then you're not going to be the person to help them anyway. So you're almost kind of like going, come over here, come over here, come over here. And they say, oh yeah, I can't help you with that. So it would be better to focus on where your real strengths are, what your video strategy is, or what your product or service is, and go deep on that, like go all in. So everything you do is around that area of expertise that you do have. So when people are drawn towards you, you can go, well, I'm glad you're interested in that because I do this, or I help my clients do that. Right. So
also, I mean, when it comes to social media, I always encourage trainers to be as, and that's an overused word, but authentic as possible in terms of showcasing their personality, because there's nothing worse as a trainer of being inundated with clients you don't really get on with, or aren't your kind of people. But the more kind of you put out in the universe what you're about, what you stand for, the kind of vibe you give off, then you'll attract people who like that, and you're more likely to get on with those clients. And when you have clients you really get on with and they get you and they like you, usually the relationship is better and the results are better.
Absolutely. Yeah. You tend to find people, because I used to be a trainer as well. You tend to find people who are not necessarily into what you're interested in training, being more of a drain on your business than anything else, because you don't have those similarities, those common traits, those beliefs that work together. And there's a kind of like a subliminal commitment to each other, which is more than that trainer, client relationship. And if you're spreading yourself thinly, and you're training all sorts of people, then you probably have one or two people like that, like your perfect customers, right? You never want to let go of, that are a joy to work with because they do everything you want them to do and they work hard and they don't let you down and they pay you on time, right? But the majority of people, it's probably like the 80-20, isn't it? It's probably that. It's the 80-20 rule. So there's no reason to say that you can't attract more of that 20%. You just have to be prepared to change your approach in everything that you do. So you align, if we can use the word authenticity, you align everything with your authentic self. So these are the people that I want to work with. I'm just going to go after those. It's just triathletes, or it's just women aged 45 and above, or it's just prehab cancer patients, or it's just because when people find you, they're like, finally. And what are they going to do? They're going to be quicker to buy from you, right? Because they've already pre-qualified themselves.
I totally agree. I think on top of that, just to add to that, because I know quite a few trainers that don't necessarily have one type of demographic they're really passionate about. I don't have one particular type, but I do have a personality type I'm kind of attracted to. I like kind of all or nothing people because I'm quite like that. So in the way I advertise and post, when I share my personality, I share stories which are quite all or nothing, and it appeals to that personality type, as opposed to moderation, which most trainers kind of believe in moderation. I'm not really into that. So my clients, even though they have different jobs, they tend to be quite extreme personalities, which suits me fine. So for people listening, I think when you're figuring out like what kind of people you want to work with, it doesn't have to be labeled by their job or their age. It could be personality type, it could be anything.
Absolutely. And this is kind of an area that I approach slightly different in terms of figuring out who your client avatar is, because normally if you work with like a branding company, or you're changing the direction of your business, and there is a lot of resistance when people say, niche down, find your target audience. They go, well, I have no idea who that is, especially if they're new to the industry. I haven't got enough experience to figure out who my ideal audience is. So rather than looking at the whole business model and going, who do I want to serve for the rest of my life? It's easier to think of it as, what one product could I make and sell that I can target to a specific audience that I'm passionate about? Because it's really low risk, right? With one of these, you can do it quite quickly with the platforms of technology that exists at the moment. You go, well, I'm really into triathlon, and I had an ACL injury, and I was worried about doing it in my triathlon because of the run and everything like that. Well, I did it. So I'm going to design a 4-week triathlon prep program for people recovering from ACL. And you might go, well, that's pretty niche. And you go, well, it is. But then look at how many knee injuries there are. And you go, oh, yeah. And most people who have an injured knee have done some sort of sport before, right? Or fitness before. And they very rarely just stop. They want to do some more. And triathlon, to a lot of people, especially in the demographic when I did it when I was younger, it was, your 30-year-old who wants to try something a little bit different, a little bit out there. A triathlon is a challenge, right? It's like, I remember freaking out when I got my first one today. I was like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? But it's like, it's that. And it's not going all in. It's not like redeveloping your website, changing all your copy. It's like going, let's just try it. Let's design this and then push it out on the side, or do a few promotions for it, or just have a page dedicated.
I mean, this was exactly my approach many years ago. 8 years ago, I created a little ebook for models, for fashion models. And that's since grown to like a separate company now. But I did that because I wanted to create a product. And I didn't really have a specialist area, but I didn't really want to do like a muscle building or fat loss, because I was like, that's going to compete with everybody. And I wasn't kind of confident enough to put out there like this ultimate fat loss or ultimate body transformation. So I thought, well, I understand that niche. I've trained lots of fashion models. It's quite specialist, so it makes me kind of unique. And I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter because it's not that big a deal. Luckily, it worked really well. And I kind of then redeveloped it and I kind of let that organically grow. But that was never my core business. That was like just one of the things I did. So I didn't have to let it define me. And it worked out great. So I'm completely on board with that suggestion. I mean, I tried it and it worked. And now I've done it for a few products. Even this, the Business Academy, this is a separate company I run, which helps, business mentoring and helps coaches. And this podcast is aligned to that separate company. But it's not all what I do, So you can have lots of interests. Yeah,
like you said, there it's low risk, right? And you said it doesn't define me. So if it didn't work, cool. Well,
and it builds confidence.
Yeah.
In a nice way. Because only when you feel like you've nailed one little area, you can go, well, that was fun. Maybe I'll expand it, or maybe I'll try something else.
Yeah. And it's really not that difficult to do, right? I mean, you just need a bit of time, right? But I reckon most people, most trainers, even those who say they don't have that much, experience maybe in the industry, they can, in a space of a week, if you locked yourself in a room, you could pull together something like a month program which focuses on a specific area. Because in this digital world, you can host these things on sites like Sendowl or other kind of like third-party delivery platforms where you can post your product there, and it can just sit there, and they'll just take a fee every time someone buys it. So it's zero financial risk for you. You can test things. You can get an idea for what works, what doesn't, with very little investment.
Building a membership site. I mean, I run membership sites. That's not that expensive if you have like a WordPress platform, and it doesn't cost that much. Things. Once you get like 3 or 4 sales, it usually covers the cost of development for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually worth mentioning at this point that a lot of people, in terms of spontaneous purchases, people will spend up to £100 spontaneously on something if it resonates with them. Yeah. I mean, that's a significant piece of information to know, right? If you're teaching 4 classes a week at £25 an hour in a club to supplement your personal training, you can easily, clear up and make some money quite quickly selling a program that is well priced, very quick for you to produce and to sell with no, big financial commitment. So don't think that you have to price things as low as £7 or £10, to get people interested. In fact, there's a certain level of buyer reassurance there when they see things which are a little bit more expensive than they anticipate, because it creates curiosity, right? And people go, well, this must be significantly different to what I've seen before because of the price point.
Also, on a branding point of view, it helps your positioning. If I create a product now and it's £5.50, that doesn't help my positioning in the marketplace at all. Actually does more harm. So you have to think about where you're positioned right now and where you want to be positioned. And these products, any kind of business strategy, so a product is part of your business strategy, should help you get to that next level of your career.
Yeah, and it's funny you should say that about product strategy, because I think that's a real area where fitness professionals struggle with. If we look at kind of like average types of income or products or services they sell in the space, they might teach a class in a club for £25 per hour. They might do a PT session for £50 per hour. They may sell a packet of those PT sessions, let's say, for £400.
Yeah.
Like that. So we've identified 3 different tiers of pricing regarding, different products or services they offer. But how do you start to insert new ones that free up your time, right? And so you talked about ebooks before, right? You can sell an ebook which educates them. Well, think about the price for that ebook. Where's it going to sit between the other products you have? You want to create almost this ladder effect. Yeah. And just in the same way that you go with the ladder up the stairs, you want to take people from one product to a next highly priced product. So if we look at a typical scenario, you meet Julie in a class in a chain gym. She goes, I really enjoyed that class. Do you do PT as well? All of a sudden, they've taken themselves up to that next product. Yeah. You might train her 1 session a week for a few weeks. Then she goes, I'm going to, buy a bulk of sessions with you. I think this is working well. Okay, so now you step that up again. But are there different things that you can put between those levels? Or even, is there an even higher step level that you can have?
Yeah.
Where you don't even have to have any interaction with that person, or a limited interaction, or a hybrid interaction with them. Because if, let's say, for example, the most you charge is £800 a month for a pack of PT sessions, and that might be 2 a week for 4 weeks, £50 a session. Well, what other product could you create where you only have one check-in a month with them? And how much would you charge for that? Where would it sit in terms of a product ladder? Well, you're not spending loads of time with them, right? So it's not that expensive, but you still want it to sit more expensive than an individual session. So it might be £300, £400 a month, and they follow your program remotely or online, and you have a check-in every month. So now you're getting paid £400 for designing the program and 1 hour of your time, let's say, a month to check in with them. So we want to get away from that world of trading time for money, right? Because that's where everyone kind of struggles with, and they know they want to get into the digital space and sell something. So I think we've figured out a strategy there already between us, figure out a product you can make, figure out where that's going to sit in your product pricing strategy at the moment, work how much it's going to cost you, and go all in on that. See whether it works, where you have to tweak it.
It's great. It's great advice, Rich. I mean, also in addition to that, additional benefits, I think when you have like a cheaper product, you have more, like an ebook or some sort of course, you have more people who are entering your kind of world a little bit. That's why I'm actually a fan of membership sites rather than ebooks, because a membership site, people have to log in on your website every time they want to do the workout. So they're looking, rather than an ebook, they just download and they forget about you. But anyway, when you have, hundreds, maybe thousands of people doing your little course for 2 weeks, they're also looking at your menu and they're seeing what other things you do, like personal training or retreats or anything else. And I know in my business, like my most expensive item I do one-to-one retreats. So personalized retreats in like Maldives and Hawaii, nice places, very expensive per week. The last 3 I did came originally from people who bought a £40 a month product. And then they did some PT with me, literally a couple of sessions, because when they were flying into London. And then like a month later, a lot more expensive, going off to, around the world traveling. And it's like, if I hadn't had the ebook, I don't know if I'd grabbed them, because I don't really advertise what I do. I use the fact that I have a lot of cheap products and I have a lot of free products and cheap products, which means there are thousands of people in my little ecosystem, and I kind of upsell, which means I don't do any advertising. I didn't do any paid advertising, haven't done ever.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way it should be, right? And it's always easy to do that when you know who you're trying to serve or who that product is specifically for, isn't it?
Yes, that's the thing. All these products are different. They're not all like body transformation. They're all very kind of niche in a way. Yeah. So, fascinating. Good. So let's talk about actual techniques for a bit. I know when I talk to a lot of trainers, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of fear sometimes when being on video. So what are your tips in terms of they're not comfortable doing a video at all, but they feel like, they need to get more comfortable. What kind of practical things can they do to be better in front of the camera?
A lot of people think it's the hardest thing to do is start speaking, right? It's not. The hardest thing is to stop speaking. Because when you stick someone in front of a camera and say, talk to me for 1 minute about this, they kind of run out of things to say, and then they go back on themselves and loop and loop and loop, and they can never get out of it, right? So if you're doing any video whatsoever, Instagram live update, YouTube video, work to an outline. Like what's the last thing you're going to say? Work out that statement and work towards it, because once you've said it, then you can stop talking. Right, because if you figured out
when you're kind of thinking, oh my God, they're recording, so they're watching me. What do I say next? And I've had that when I've been on sets, when there've been like 4 cameras and a sound guy and a producer, and it's like, and I'm just talking, and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm talking about, and it just ends up messy. So I've learned from horrible experiences that having an outline makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it's true, isn't it? I mean, everyone who's tried like presenting some sort of live video now realizes it's never quite the same thing as delivering a live experience. So yeah, I mean, having the toolkit, we could break it down into figuring out what the last thing is you're going to say, being prepared, being rehearsed, creating a kind of a formula of things that you're going to talk through.
When you say be rehearsed, do you mean like learning a script, or more like a bullet point thing? What do you recommend when you work with people?
I say the best type of rehearsal is a live rehearsal, right? Because I always say is I always get the best results when I do it when I'm working with clients. I say, we're going to record this one, but it's a rehearsal, okay? And just go through it to the end and work to that last line. Because you know what? When I say it's a rehearsal, they go, it's cool. We can delete it afterwards. Then we don't have to use it if it's rubbish. What happens? Relax, right? The pressure's all of a sudden off. Because I've told them it's a rehearsal.
It's like Wimbledon's on at the moment. I used to play tennis like competitively, and whenever someone served like an inch out, I'd return back so relaxed down the line. Then they serve in, and I'd like, I'd make a mistake. But when I knew the serve was out, I could just relax, and I'd be a nice sweeping backhand. It's funny what pressure does to us.
That's it. Yeah,
tense
the
up.
pressure's off. Yeah, the pressure's off.
Yeah.
Then it's like, and you guarantee, I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10. That first take, that first rehearsal is really sweet. It's really good. And
Some people are doing let's say people want to get more confidence. I would personally say, don't jump into Instagram lives. Start off by doing stories, because if you do a video for 10 seconds, you don't like it, you can always do it again. There's no, and then you can build up to stories. I don't know if you'd recommend the same. To lives. I mean, to live.
I very rarely did lives. When the only times where I do lives when I already pre-organized a live in my group, for example, in my Facebook group, and I would only ever go live before that, about half an hour before that, to give a bulletin that I'm going to be live in half an hour. Because if you think about the way that Facebook works in the platforms, is people get a notification when you're live, right?
Yeah.
So if they only get that notification when you're live, when you're actually doing your hour segment, whatever it's going to be, the people who wanted to tune in that forgot about it aren't there. So if you can get on half an hour before and go, quick update, I'm live in half an hour on the channel, tune in because we're going through X, Y, and Z, and you're going to figure out how to do A, B, and C. I'll see you there. People get the notifications. You're offline now. You're not even online, but they go back and they watch it because they think it's important because it's live. And then they see it's an update. Now they're reminded, oh yeah, in half an hour I've got to do that. So it increases the engagement rate, right?
Yeah.
So use lives like that. Use the technology.
That's a really good idea. And for people who are doing their first live, it's a bit nerve-wracking thinking, oh my God, I've got to do this 45-minute presentation. But if you're half an hour beforehand, it's like if you're doing a stand-up. If half an hour beforehand you say one little joke or speak for 10 seconds, you've kind of taken the edge off, and it's not as scary. And I'm so conscious that so many people find this. I mean, obviously people you work with must find it scary, but a lot of trainers who ask me advice find that side of things so scary, like going live and doing videos.
It gives you a bit of reassurance then as well, right? Because if you do a quick one, get off, and then all of a sudden you see loads of people have watched it, the number one fear is you're going to go live and no one's going to turn up, right? So if you've done a little update and then all of a sudden 10, 12 people have watched that, then odds are it makes you feel better because it's likely they're going to turn up for the...
Another tip for people going live and like Facebook Lives. When I did my first Facebook Live, it was like a Q&A inside one of my groups. No one asked a question. There were like 50 people or 100 people or so. No one asked a question. And I hadn't really thought about what I was going to do if no one asked a question. And when I did my next live, I learned from that because it was just awkward. I learned, okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to have some questions I'm going to answer like in my head, and I actually had them in front of me. So if there was a bit of silence, I'd be like, hey, you know what? Yesterday, Sally asked me this. And I showed people that I can answer questions, and then the questions kind of came flooding in, because you need a strategy when things go a bit quiet, because like I said, I'm not an actor, I'm not a presenter, but I'm in this position, like a lot of trainers are, where we're kind of forced to be actors and presenters. So you need some strategies, otherwise it gets a bit nerve-wracking. Yeah,
and sometimes when people want engagement with you as a host, but maybe they don't have a question to ask at that point, or they think their question's too stupid. And when you say to them, if anyone's got any questions, ask them. It's kind of like putting a blank canvas in front of a lot of people and saying, paint me a great picture. They just don't know where to start, because maybe they've got loads of different...
Yeah, you should lead them to a certain area, right?
Yeah, so like you say, you had a plan, right? So you had some pre-prepared questions. A lot of people will say something like, do you want to know more about sound on video and what's the best mic to buy? Or do you want to know which cameras to avoid buying, right? And you get a litmus test for where people are going to go, and it gives them some sort of direction. with that engagement with them.
Same with stories. I find I do quite a lot of Q&As on Instagram stories, and when I've in the past done Ask Me Anything, it's just so random. But when I've said, okay, today I'm going to focus on running. If you've got any questions regarding running, technique or what to wear, ask away. And I get loads more engagement because people know, that's what we're going to talk about. And then I'll do maybe like 30 or 40 answers all about running. And then the next time, a week later, I'll do it about prenatal or about something else. I talk about different subjects. So I don't really have a specialist area. So that's good as well. The more precise it is, the more it kind of helps people to ask a precise question.
Yeah, people like to be steered in the direction. Plus, people have got different priorities with regards to their fitness in their head, right? And often, if we go back to kind of the idea of creating content again, and people struggling around the idea of creating content, well, the shortest route to figuring out what your content strategy is just getting the heads of your perfect client, right? What are the things they ask you every day? Which groups are you like members of? You can tap into and go, let's see whether anybody asked about diastasis recti, or let's see if anybody asked about, hamstring injuries, or you can search for keywords, right, on Facebook groups or whatever it happens to be, and it'll bring up those posts. So if you're thinking of creating a hamstring rehabilitation program, you can find out all the questions people have regarding that. Should I be doing deadlifts after 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Should I be doing da-da-da? So you can create a pool of content that will circle around your program very quickly with a few taps of the keyboard. And using that in a reverse sense, let's not discount the importance of YouTube here with the distribution of your content. That people will use YouTube more and more now to find the content that they're after. Like they want to be taught. People love to be educated because then it brings them to a higher level of status, but also understanding of what they're interested in. And a lot of people get disheartened when using social because they go, oh, no one's responding, no one's engaging, no one's, but the majority of people are completely covertly learning. They're looking at you from afar and paying very close attention and waiting for something to come up that resonates with them, especially if they've been following you for a while, right?
Yeah, so true.
Just because there's no questions there doesn't mean that people aren't carefully just like, I wouldn't mind working with him or her. They know they're dealing with exactly the right things, but I just don't know whether they sell something that I can buy. Yeah. Like some people are literally there and they're like, I'm ready to give you money. And I had one guy on LinkedIn contact me. He says, I've been following your post for a while. I don't know how you can help me, but when I can buy something from you, tell me and I'll buy something from you. And I'm like, well, that's great to know.
You're right. You're so right. There's so many people kind of watching us. And I think everyone gets a little bit, it's very hard not to be affected. If you spend ages crafting an amazing blog or an amazing kind of like you think is a really heartfelt Instagram post and 3 people like it, part of you feels like,
it dies inside it.
Well, unless you're like an enlightened monk, I guess monks don't go on Instagram, but it's very hard not to be affected. But I think you have to remember that people are, like you said, people are watching. And that's why it's so important to stick to your guns, be authentic, share your personality, share how you can help people, what you're passionate about. And because it takes people, I know, because like with my online customers for my products, I often ask them like, how they first heard of me. And on average, it's usually like 6 months or so before they bought it, they started following something, a podcast or read an article or something. They don't usually just read something, then automatically spend money on me. Because people like to spend time just getting to know you on Instagram and getting to know you on YouTube, whatever. And there's always a delay, maybe I should work on 6 months being shorter, but I know for me on average, it's about 6 months.
I'd agree with that as well, especially when you're buying something, in the £100 plus market, especially if it's digital as well, right? And if you're not local, right? And there's a couple of things probably really important to tie into video with regards to that is when everyone gets kind of this idea that I'm going to be the next worldwide famous trainer, whereas they're neglecting the fact that proximity really matters online. Although you can follow anybody from Timbuktu through to, Perth, Australia on your mobile phone, on Instagram, whatever it happens to be, there's still a lot to be said for locality, right? And proximity to people, because people will research online, nearest Thai restaurant to me, nearest 5-star boutique hotel, nearest spa day in Peak District, near, you know, whatever it happens to be. They're using platforms as local search devices. So YouTube, Instagram, the hashtags, the keywords, whatever it happens to be. And the platforms are becoming even more and more able to fine tune and sort the results for you based upon your location at the time, as well as what you're particularly after in the way that you're searching for content. So free content strategy is a massive thing, and more important than like if you're looking at platforms, you want to get some work done quickly that's going to have more benefit in the long run, focus on YouTube as a content strategy. Build up your library of content there for what you stand for, and really work on developing your SEO with your good titles, your good descriptions, your good tags. And if your clients are local, really focus on pushing the locality of your videos, because that's what's going to help you to get those people walking through your door
really
quicker.
Good advice. Really, really good advice. Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of YouTube, maybe it's a generation thing. A lot of people I talk to, kind of my kind of age, mid-40s, are a little bit averse to YouTube because I didn't need it, you know what I mean, when I was sort of starting off as a trainer. And it's seen a little bit as like, oh, it's just kind of vloggers on there. And I think that's such a myth. It's not. There is a small percentage of trainers who decide to be vloggers, but that's a very specific thing. Just sharing good content of how to do things, or just sharing information about how to help people lose weight or improve their knee strength, whatever.
Yeah,
it's really powerful. And it's like, you know, I go to YouTube and I do a lot of DIY, like a lot of people in the last 18 months. I've become I've come from terrible to adequate at DIY. So the first thing I do is I look at a YouTube video. I don't buy a book. I don't buy a course. I go to YouTube.
So in that instance, what has YouTube become, right? It's become the question and answer site, right?
Yeah.
So people go there to figure out how to do things. How do I plug in my new monitors from my computer?
Yeah.
Why isn't my mic working? What's the best camera for filming fitness videos? How far away should I be for filming fitness videos? Is my room big enough to film fitness videos in? Why does my light look weird in my fitness videos? You know, there's all of these different things that people are after and trying to solve problems, right? And so once again, if you're looking for some ideas of what people are searching for, so you can write content that people want and when people see you as an expert, type into YouTube. And when you do, right, it starts to autofill, right? So the clever thing about YouTube is that it auto predicts, or thinks it can predict, what you're going to type in. And you'll see what the common search terms are. So what is diastasis recti? It'll follow up. Or how do I solve diastasis recti? Or how to fix diastasis recti? Or what is diastasis recti? So the keywords that you put in there will also help to auto predict, and it will tell you the things that people are searching for the most. So if you're specializing in hamstring injury, if you're specializing in postnatal Pilates, if you're specializing boxing for women, use YouTube. It will tell you so many different things that people are using that platform to search for. It will shortcut your way to creating the content that people want to see.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. Now, if people want to do like a high-end, like they want to have a very polished video on their website, maybe like an introduction video. Maybe they're a small company in a gym and they want to create a nice introduction video for a few minutes. Do they need to, what, in terms of equipment, do they need certain things, or is their phone good enough?
Absolutely, yeah. And the most important thing, because people are more forgiving of lesser video quality than less audio quality, everyone should invest in a microphone, right? And if you're looking for a cheap like radio mic alternative that'll plug into your phone, you can plug it into a stereo system, you can, you know, take it with you and plug into your camera to do video spaces, then the one I've been recommending a lot of people to use is the Rode Wireless Go. I don't have one right here with me. I could dig one out. It's about the size of, actually, this is not bad. It's a bit smaller than that. Right? So this is a card reader. So imagine it as a square instead. That's your transmitter. It's got a microphone and you can clip it to your top, or you can plug a mic in like a head mic or a lapel mic. You took that in your back pocket. Then this bit sits on your camera and plugs into your camera, or you plug it into your phone. You take it everywhere. It's got like battery life will last you a whole day. Really simple to use.
Is that quite new? Is that in the last couple of years, or has that been going on for a while? What?
Yeah, it's probably about 3 or 4 years old now for the Rode Go. They've just released a new one, which is called the Rode Wireless Go 2, which allows you to have two transceivers or transceivers, and they're sending the signal to one receiver.
Oh, wow. So you can do
don't
like
have to talk to
interviews
people.
and stuff on the go.
Yeah,
Wow. That's
absolutely,
really
and
cool.
really expensive. So you can pick up one of those for secondhand for probably £100, $100.
That's really cool because I've got the I bought one like 5 years ago. I think it's a Sennheiser one which plugs into my iPhone into a lapel mic. Really good quality, but it's a bit annoying that I have to connect like with a wire to my phone.
Yeah,
But
that's why it's really popular.
It's really good quality though. I might get that.
Yeah, it's a great piece of kit. I've used it on professional fitness videos as a filming device, so it gives extra excellent quality results.
I'm gonna buy that after this podcast because I like my gadgets and
Brilliant.
I've been looking for a wireless one and
Must get that affiliate link sorted.
yeah, no, damn it. And it's going to end up very expensive. You're going to list all the cameras I need to buy next. It's going
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
pause from this conversation just for 30 seconds to say thank you, Rich. I did end up taking his advice. I bought the Rode Wireless Go 2 transmitter and receiver set and the little mic which goes with it, and it's fantastic. I've been using it so much in recent weeks, and the sound quality is really good. It's really versatile. It's so nice not to have wires dangling around you. I strongly recommend it, particularly if you're doing instructional videos. I do quite a lot of videos for my Nuxu and my MX groups, and quite often I'm in the park or running up hills and I'm talking to the camera while moving, and this is a godsend. It makes such a big difference, and I've made a lot of purchases since working from home in the last year and a half, and it's been one of the few I don't regret. I've bought all kinds of shit, but this is fantastic, so I strongly recommend it. And we're about to talk about cameras in a second. I just want to say that I upgraded to a better GoPro, and it's made a big difference as well. Basically, if you get the GoPro 9 or GoPro 10, they have a built-in stabilization. This is the GoPro 9, which I use. Fantastic. It's a huge step up from the GoPro 8. And if you're doing instructional videos, particularly when you're moving, like running and talking, the quality is just superb. So anyway, let's get back to the conversation with Richard Playfair. And let's get back into it.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's something I am asked a lot on, right? What camera should I buy?
Yeah.
And most of the time, this is good enough, right? If you can get your light sorted, so you're not shining the light into the lens, right? You want to have the light illuminating you, so pointing at you as the same direction.
And if anyone's watching this on YouTube, you shouldn't do what I'm doing, sitting behind a bright window. It's like
I think you've got a good quality camera here, because I can still see you, and you're not a silhouette.
I've got it's what's it called? I think it's called a Razer webcam. So it's got like a little light around it.
Yeah, well, that works good, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I've also got that.
Yes.
An angle as well, and I've also got a little light here because this room gets quite dark, and I've learned that apart from having a mic, having just things well lit makes it much more watchable.
Yeah. So everyone, if you're listening to this, invest in a radio mic. It is going to make such a significant difference, because if you got crap audio and you're doing any video, the first thing people are going to go is, I can't hear him. And they tune out and they go somewhere else. On
my very first shoot for Methodology X, which is one of my products, the very first shoot we did, we had 3 cameramen, but no sound person. And the sound was recorded by this, it wasn't even radio mics. It was like this microphone in the middle of the room. It was just, I didn't know what I was doing. No one knew what they're doing. The camera people knew about video, but they knew nothing about sound. It looks beautiful. Like the very classy, and because I had different angles and all kinds of stuff, it looked great. But the sound was so bad that the price I wanted to charge for this as a product, I had to cut in half, because it wasn't as professional.
Yeah,
it really annoyed me, because I spent ages planning. I had a cast of like 15 people. It was quite a big shoot over like 3 days, and it got kind of ruined by the lack of thought about sound. And it's like, so please don't make. I've made many mistakes, but try not to make that mistake. Sound is so important.
Yeah. Let's talk about another thing that's probably worth mentioning is on your phones, if you're doing, let's say you're doing exercise demos and things like that, and you're filming them on your phones, you want to put those out there, whether it's a workout, whether it's just demos for your app. You may have heard that you can film, or most phones will film in what's called 1080p, 25 frames per second, right? This is kind of like the standard setting for high definition video. If you can, and if your phone allows you to do it, or your camera, film in 50p. That's 50 frames per second, okay? And the reason I say that is you get a lot of motion blur, right, with movement. And at 25p, you get much more motion blur than you do at 50p. And though most people probably wouldn't, notice, if you can do it, you just get a lot sharper image, and it feels a lot more real with 50p than 25p.
Yeah.
So if you're ever looking at your stuff and going, wonder what the difference is, that's it. All the football is pretty much filmed in 50p now because they move so quickly. You don't have lots of blurry lines on the television. You want to have nice sharp frames that people can see. So that just gives a little bit of context.
That's good advice. I've been recording over the last 6 months quite a lot of stuff on my GoPro. I've treated myself to a GoPro, and I wanted to get sort of better, create little videos like running videos, cycling videos, and some of them I was sort of playing around doing slow motion stuff. And if you record at a higher, I mean, my knowledge of cameras isn't good, but I know if I change the settings, it allows me to slow it down and I still have the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that, with 50p, because then you can slow it down by half.
Yeah, and it's still good quality. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What else do we need to think about? How about lighting? So if someone's doing a video and they're facing camera, what are the key things the key principles of lighting one has to consider? Okay, so light's quite a complex area, and I don't want to go overboard in this because it probably doesn't mean so much. Yeah. So light has got a temperature, right? So when you're outside on a gloomy day, things can look quite blue. When it hurts your eyes because it seems too glaring, right? There's a lot more blue light outside when it's gloomy. During the summertime, when the sun's out, it's a lot redder. It's a warmer light. In the evening and dusk, when photographers especially, call it the golden hour, you get that nice kind of hazy red golden light that comes through the light shining through the Earth's atmosphere, and that's great for photographers. So being aware that light temperature changes can help you solve a couple of problems that you might experience in your videos. Like, why does my white wall look blue? Or why does, my skin color look a little bit like orangey red or something like that? And that often happens when you mix different light sources together. So if you've got a set of lights pointing at you, which are, let's say, color temperature of daylight, and it's daytime and you're shining light in from the window, things are going to look pretty good, right? But maybe you're filming in the evening when the color temperature is a bit warmer. It's less high in terms of a temperature scale. It'll look a bit red, and your inside will look a bit blue, and you might get weird color casts and things start to change. Yeah. So if it's not really a way of saying, here, do this to fix it, it's being aware of what causes it. So if you get light colors that you don't like, it could be to do with the temperature that your light's at and the time of day you're filming at. So try filming at a different time of day and see whether that solves the problem. That's good. Good tip. Thank you. Anything else you need to think about in terms of, do people need to buy external? I do quite a lot of filming, so I have a few external lights. Do you recommend that, or is it unnecessary? Yeah, I think so. You can get them relatively cheap. A pair of softbox lights you can get for probably 70 to 100 pounds. You can have those pretty close to you, pretty much either side of the camera is like 45 degrees, and they'll help to give you an even light, and they'll pump out just enough juice that you need to get things filmed. They won't push light that far away. So be aware that, if you need to fit in head to toe on your camera, be aware of your space and maybe use something like a water bottle to mark your position. So you can always return to that so you won't be out of frame, right? That's a good tip. Yeah. And that helps, especially if you can't plug in your recording device to a TV that you can see yourself on to help, gauge where you're. Yeah, you need to frame yourself first, know how far, so if you're teaching, if you're doing a press up or something, you want to make sure your feet are chopped off the frame. So it makes sense to spend a few minutes making sure that's set up first before pressing. And if you don't have anything, around you that you could, mark or use that, but if you've got some tape, this is a little tip from the professional sets. If you use any tape that's gray, you can pretty much stick it on any surface and it won't stand out or be practically unnoticeable. Because it just it's a bit of a nothingness gray tape. So that can be useful if you want to mark the edge of your floor space so you don't go past those points, or you want to mark a space, particularly in the middle where you want to, return to for standing. That's a good way to do it. Another little tip for people listening, what I found really useful I do a lot of filming on my iPhone. I've got myself like a little octopus gorilla grip thing, which kind of means I can attach my phone onto any surface or give it like a little mini tripod. And that's so handy if I'm doing a little recording in the park or somewhere, because you can't always find something to balance it. So a little travel tripod I find really useful.
Yeah, and particularly good if you go into gyms and you're filming bits in gyms too.
Yeah, you just attach it somewhere, because otherwise you spend like 10 minutes trying to prop it up and trying to balance it on weights, and it just falls down, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, maybe some tips. Let me share some tips, like small things that in together, will help to raise the production standards of anything you do.
Brilliant, please. Right? Yeah.
So if you're a runner and you're doing running videos, try not to wear any clothes with your reflective surfaces on for filming, right? Because otherwise you're going to be reflecting light and you're going to be glistening and gleaming everywhere, that sort of stuff. And try and avoid like bright neon colors as well. A lot of recording devices nowadays in the consumer space use a data rate which doesn't allow the full spectrum of colors to be displayed correctly. So it kind of goes, that fluorescent pink, it's kind of like lipstick red. So I'm going to call it that. So if you've ever filmed yourself and gone, my t-shirt isn't that color, that's kind of why, right? It's because it can't deal with these luminescent colors. So try and steer away from black. If you look at me right now, I look like the top of my head is just floating in this, right? Because the black background before me.
Yeah, I was going to say backgrounds are important because, I've seen so many videos online where you can't really see the person doing the exercise because the background's so messy.
Yeah, it's distracting, right? Or they're wearing the same color clothes as the background.
Yeah.
And in the world that we live in today, with a lot of boutique gyms being pretty much all black and having high contrast lighting, and they also like to wear black as well, you can't really see much, right?
Yes.
So if we're talking about the user experience and helping people become successful in what they want to do, like you can't ignore the fact that they're going to use their eyes to gauge distance and to try and mirror you. So if you're going to make that hard for them, they're going to feel more frustrated, less successful, not going to come back for more, right? So it's all about consumer
experience. There, because that's a really, really key point. To be good in this industry, focusing on how other people feel is so much better than how you look.
Yeah, completely.
I reiterate that. Thank you.
That's not even 80-20. That's probably something more like 99-1.
I know, but so many of us forget or don't realize, because we look at, like I said, the main way in social media is very much look how good I look how strong I am, look how sexy I am, as opposed, and that might get you followers, but it doesn't actually get you paid clients.
Exactly, yeah, because you're only really impressing yourself.
Right. or other trainers who want to be like you.
And that's falling into that trap, isn't it? Like perpetuating that cycle of doing the same thing over and over again. All right, so what other tips are there? Camera height is a good one. Let's say you're planning to do an educational piece where you're going to stand to camera, but then you're going to show some things as well, like demonstrations or rehab exercises, whatever it happens to be. Choose a camera position or height that's going to suit both you standing and on the floor, right? Because it's kind of a compromise, right? Yeah. So if you're going to be standing for some exercises and lying down, I suggest setting a camera height somewhere around your sternum, so bra level, right? Mm-hmm. Because then it's not too high that you're always going to fall out the shot at the bottom. You've got some floor space there that you can work in, and it's not too low that you're just looking up at somebody and you're maybe your head's out a shot at the top, right? So test, but if you're on the floor and standing up, about sternum level is a good height for a
good tip for doing Instagram live workouts.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for a lot of women, they get the height right, but then you get the gratuitous boob shots every time when they come to the cameras, which is kind of like, you got to be a little bit careful about what
more mindful.
So practice, rehearse, test your settings, maybe stick some markers on your tripod so you can go to it quickly, put a bit of tape on the floor and take a picture. Like when you've done a setup, take a picture of everything and whack it onto like a WhatsApp group to yourself or to your wife or whatever, so it's easy to refer to quickly, right? So you'd have to dig through your album. Where is that picture? It's a good one. What else is there? Strong opening, strong ending, right? To everything.
Remember.
So get to the point quickly. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 things you shouldn't be doing after ACL rehab, but the one thing that you thought that was completely nuts that you definitely should be doing.
I mean, I'm
right?
sold.
Yeah, like, well, what is it? Right.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the video, you can just recap on that thing that was revolutionary the most, right?
Yeah.
This one exercise that you didn't know about is important because of this, this, and this. And here we go. And if you want to read more about it, I've just written a blog post. Come to the website, check it out. Right. So it's everything leads on from one thing to another. You're creating content because it relates to something you've already done.
Those of you, you're listening to this podcast, listen to Richard. This is great tips, great advice. It seems straightforward, but I don't see it done that much.
Yeah, it is, because I think we're overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
We're overwhelmed by, oh, we should be doing this and we should be doing that. And then now I need to be on that platform and I need to be on Clubhouse and da, da, da. And it really just have to kind of go, information diet. Ignore all the new apps that are coming out and go, what's this one thing I'm going to create? And I'm going to commit to doing it in 1 week, next week.
I'm deciding to get, folk realizing, doing a video and go, you know what, that wasn't great. And rather than just, like I remember when I did, like I said, my first Facebook Live, I was like, that's really shit. And at the end of it, rather than just sort of like dismissing that emotion, I was like, yeah, that wasn't bad. I don't want that to happen again. And I wrote a list of things I need to get better at so that wouldn't happen again. And some of it was presenting, this was many years ago, some of it was presenting skills, preparation. And I made sure I booked in another one a week later, and it was like 3 times as good. And again, I wrote a list of things I could improve. And I was very kind of conscious about my faults, which is really important. I think you have to be honest with yourself if you don't nail it. And that's why if you're doing like a lot of people in the last year and a half have been doing a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of Zoom sessions, let's say Zoom PT sessions. Well, you can record those and afterwards force yourself to watch them and think, okay, could I have done it differently? And it's quite hard at first because we're like, oh no, it's done. But that's how you grow.
Yeah. And let's not forget that, the journey to becoming, going from the journey of camera confident, which is the first step, through to being, in my industry, I call it production ready, right? We can stick you in front of a camera and you can deliver exactly what we've planned, right? It's not just being capable of entertaining us for 30 minutes and telling jokes and, telling everyone to dig deep and go for it. There's got to be more to it than that, right? There's got to be more. And the reason why the television industry was so ferocious with talent selection since the beginnings of, television time is that they very rarely find good presenters for good roles, right? It's just because you can do it doesn't mean you're good at it straight away. Right. So you have to be prepared to practice, and depending on what level you want to get to, is determined by how much work you're willing to put in. Yeah. And not everyone's prepared to put the work in, right? It has to be a priority. And for day-to-day Instagram stuff, sure, you can get by. But you know what? When you start to think a little bit more strategically about what you're doing and start to commit a bit more effort to really refining the process of becoming a better presenter in camera, it's no longer you pretending to be a presenter. It's you now emptying your head of all of those noises, that chatter that makes you feel, oh, is the camera on? Have I focused it? What if the cat comes in again? And am I going to be able to fit this in before my next client? All of that goes out the window. And when you empty that from your head, you become your most authentic self, because the chat's gone. It's just you coming through now, right? And you can't ignore that. So if you've ever felt like in front of the camera, I'm not being authentic, I'm not being true, I feel like a bit of a fake and a fraud, like how much of it do you really deserve at this point?
Good question.
To feel that good on camera. Have you done the work? Because all of the TV presenters of the past have done hundreds of hours of work to get to that point where they can learn a line in 5 minutes. They can, ad lib on the spot and fill 5 minutes of blank time. It's an art, it's a skill. And we've had like the live experience of being face to face with people. It's like being thrown in at the deep end and going, go and do that job. And you kind of learn it on the spot, right? But there's a lot to be said because the experience is different in front of camera. And one of the things I taught my Facebook group at the start of the pandemic was everyone had this massive insecurity complex because now they transitioned online. That face-to-face contact wasn't there anymore. And they went, have all my stuff for free, because they were apologetic.
That's so weird. I don't quite understand why that happened.
Yeah, because they felt it was because they knew the experience wasn't the same. So they were apologetic for it. And they thought, well, if I offer it for free, at least I've got a best chance of keeping people, right?
Yeah.
But what I didn't think is that if everyone's forced online, they're not going to go anywhere else but to somebody else online right now, right? So a lot of them dug themselves this hole and couldn't start charging for it.
Exactly. If you're giving free classes, how then do you charge for them after a month?
Exactly. And
What you do.
that's a conversation which is kind of out of the scope of this, which is a bit more of strategy with how they tackled that. But what I taught people at the start was it's not necessarily all about authenticity, but it's the fact that every client or every person that you see, you train, you interact with, that comes to your classes, that follows you, does your workouts, whatever it happens to be, they see you as an authority. Like whether you like it or not, you're an authority. Oh, I'm just a fitness instructor. I'm just a personal trainer. We have one session every Tuesday. No. Who do they go to get the fitness done? They go to you. They've chosen you. You are their authority, right? So there's this kind of like, there's this conundrum between ego in the fitness industry and self-belief. And then the two aren't the same, right? They're split completely apart. It's very easy to show off and do your thing and look good in front of the camera and do amazing photo shoots and all that sort of stuff. But believing in yourself, they're actually serving someone, they're doing it well and they're choosing you, is you should be really proud of that. And that should give you the confidence to tackle anything you need to do.
Yeah.
Whether it's regard to changing, upping prices, creating a new product, they've chosen to spend that hour with you because they believe in you.
Wonderful. Great. I completely agree. Wonderful advice. Really great advice. I do think also with trainers who are ambitious and, want to listen to this are ambitious. That's why they're trying to grow and learn. If you want to really kind of progress your career and maybe have people working for you, maybe have lots of products or have lots of sources of income, you're going to have to get comfortable doing stuff in front of the camera. You just are. I don't know any like top trainer or fitness company who's kind of made it without having that skill. You don't need to be a natural presenter, but you have to be able to do it. Just being able to present and articulate an argument, you need that when you're doing anything in life. It makes you more powerful, a human being.
Yeah.
Can actually give a presentation.
And the fear of being fake is what puts a lot of people off, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But the more you work at it, you practice, you've got to read around a little bit more of what you're doing as well, right? You're not just a PT anymore. You're probably an accountant. You're probably a marketer. You're a salesperson. You're, everything. So it pays off, like understanding a little bit more about these areas. Not saying you need to become a videographer or you need to become a full-time photographer in order to fill that niche or that space in your business and you get things done. But you should investigate and do some research into what you want to achieve, what works, why it achieves. Like I believe everyone in the fitness industry is interested in behavioral psychology in some way, because you're understanding what makes people tick and why they want to train, right? So you're already in that space. So now you're turning your attention just to, well, how do people respond to marketing in that way? Why are they interested in that? Why does video work? Why do I need a video at the top of my website? Or, should I update my LinkedIn profile to have the little video feature at the top now, or whatever it happens to be, right? You've got to become a little bit more worldly about what you do.
Yes.
Unless you're prepared to go, here's £2,000, sort out my website and my marketing, and not have any involvement in whatsoever.
Even then, when you know a little bit, it's easier to get the right people to help you.
Yeah,
a little, nothing at all, like it makes it harder, doesn't it? Like when you're helping people, if they've got no clue, if you're helping people with their brand video and they've got no clue about what they stand for, what they're about, they just want to pay you just to make it look better. You can't really do that properly. You need to, the more they understand what their brand is, the more you can create a video which aligns with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we didn't mention was testimonials, right? You said testimonials.
Yeah.
Is that good to use? It is, but you know what? To get a good testimonial video from someone, you can't do it in 2 minutes. You need to grab a coffee together. You need to set the camera up in your studio and talk for an hour.
Yeah.
I literally talk for an hour about stuff. And then, because after 5 minutes, things will start to relax and you probably don't know the real story why people come to you.
Yes.
So you've been told the PG version of why people are coming,
Yeah.
or why that person has decided to pick you as a trainer. Oh yeah, I got a funny leg, I just want to sort it out. What they didn't tell you was that 2 years ago they had a skiing accident and they were out skiing for a year after that, or they a dog bit them and they ended up in hospital. Now they can't walk properly, or whatever it happens to be.
There's always more behind the scenes, isn't there? Always.
Yeah. And once you land, like I did testimonials for a couple of PTs in London with their studios. We were literally spending a whole hour with each one, just talking. How did that make you feel? Why did you do that? Why did you choose that? It's that story element around your brand. And people won't necessarily go back to your website and rewatch a testimonial, right? I think it's important to say that. But where does that testimonial sit? It sits before people make a buying decision, right?
Yeah.
Because if you use a testimonial, hey, come to my amazing health club, here's a testimonial video, watch it. People go, no chance, I'm not watching that now. I've got no context behind it to even bother watching it. But if they've gone through the journey and now they're ready to buy, and now they start to watch testimonial videos, and someone's got the same story as you, that becomes a very powerful tool, right? To convert them into a customer. So that's understanding the video products, where you make them, and the lifespan, the shelf life that they have, will help you to gauge where you need to invest in your video the most first, right? And for a lot of people nowadays, it's do some free workouts, put them on YouTube as part of the free social strategy. And then those free workouts drive them to the paid program of those workouts, which is this much bigger, and it's got a Facebook group, and it's got a check-in every month, and right? So figure out what you want to make. Is it the right thing to make first, based upon what you want to achieve? Because testimonials are great, they're powerful, but they'll take you time to get really, really good ones.
Yeah.
So what journey do you need to take people on before they get to that testimonial point? Maybe explain who you are, what you do, the type of people you work with. This is the studio location. Let's do a gym tour. There's all of these different things that people want to covertly watch from behind the curtain, and then they'll go, oh, I've been watching your stuff on YouTube for the last month. And you're like, well, why do you call me? But now I'm in a position where I'm able to ask you what prices are, how you can help me, or can we do an accelerated program, or right? Because it's just putting in those pieces first and then letting them do the work. So then the laziness that video allows people to be, and the frictionless experience that they have. So while you're sitting with your feet up in Corfu next month, now that we can travel to orange countries and not be amber countries and not be penalized by it, you can get the ping messages on your phone popping up saying Susie has just downloaded your 4-week program and paid you £100. It's that's what everyone's after, and that's what video allows you to do. But have a strategy.
Yeah. Let's talk about Sweatlife Films. When did you set that up?
2015 was kind of the incarnation of Sweatlife Films. So before that, it didn't have a name, right? It was just
you were just doing it.
I think I had something like my video company name was something like Okie Donkey or something like that. It was just a random word to get it to stand out. And then I was working as a PT in a gym, and that was when I started to get people saying, well, our boss needs us to do this video, or our boss wants to do that video. We don't know where to start. Like, well, I used to do that. It was nothing to do with fitness. But then the gym manager saw that I was doing this stuff, and he was like, well, do some videos for our gym. So I did, and started doing more and more and more of them. And then I was a Les Mills trainer, and I went to one of the quarterly workshops, and I had this, like, I don't even know what they call it now. It was like a Kodak, like Handycam Play Sport, I think it was. It was like a phone, but it had a camera in it, but it was just a video device.
Yeah.
Probably had about 4 pixels on the screen, It was like one of them. And I went and kind of did a day in the life of a fitness trainer. Literally, it was like the video was 40 seconds long. It was like 2-second cuts of everything from me getting up, saying goodbye to the kids, getting to the venue, doing the quarterly, and leaving afterwards. That was it.
Nice.
40 seconds long.
Nice vlog.
Yeah, it wasn't even a vlog. It was just music and just clips of things
cool.
happening.
Yeah.
And Les Mills UK saw this, and they invited me and said, we want to create video content. And then I ended up working with Les Mills as their sort of like go-to videographer for about
What a
2
gig.
years. Yeah, 2 years on that.
Yeah.
Then I started doing Fit Pros conventions. Then I started working with APPI, Pilates, and doing their conventions and their in-house classes,
Mhm.
and then UK Active. And then that first year was just an accelerated experience of everyone wanted a video, and I was in the right place at the right time. So I was like, well, this has got some legs to it. So let's see whether I can make a living doing videos specifically for the fitness niche. And then 2016 landed some sort of bigger clients. I was well connected in the industry already, so did some work for Beachbody UK. And then it was brand after brand, small studio after small studio.
Yeah.
And that's really finding my feet of like, what do I enjoy doing, right? What is it that I really like in doing in this niche? So very much now I sit in the realms of helping businesses to program like their digital offering, design the programs, do the filming production, and then help them with the promotional strategy after that.
Yeah, helping obviously your knowledge with their strategy as well as actual the logistics of filming. It's really interesting how you position yourself. I don't know anyone else who does this.
Yeah, I mean, since it began, there's a couple of like production companies now that sort of like start to specialize in this space as well. There's there's a production company down the South Coast called One Fit Life. There's a guy called Piers Chen who runs a platform called Fitever now, and he does video production and he does the platforms as well for sort of like on-demand stuff. And I often talk about these people, and they go, "Why are you talking about these guys? Are your competitors?" I'm like, believe me, there's more than enough work out there for everybody. And the person that I want to work with may not be the same person that they want to work with, and vice versa. And I think, you know, you got to have an abundance mindset with everything nowadays, you know, when you're connected, because I'm at saturation point already, right? I need another 3 Richards at this rate to keep everything going. And I'm about to take August off completely so I can have a break. So it's.
Well, what's your plan for your, you know, this is a business podcast. What for your business? What's your plan? Or do you have one? Or are you playing by ear? Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, my strategy is very much like since the early beginnings of doing any videos for people through to on-demand stuff. My niche area really is now on-demand. Mm-hmm. Like that is the area which I focus in, and very much even narrower than that is instructor training and the customer experience surrounding that, because the talent that lead that experience is possibly the most unique aspect to any video production for an on-demand video, right? Personalities aren't replicable. Mm-hmm. They're unique. And that's what people fall in love with. That's why people come to you for training. That's why people go to the guy down the street for training. Like everyone's got a personality type, like you said. And you find those people that you want to work with the most, do their classes every Tuesday, or even follow them online.
Yeah, you feel a connection. You feel, yeah.
And for years, I think that the talent in the fitness industry has been massively overlooked. They've driven the KPIs of attendance in classes, which is a fundamental part of any revenue stream in a fitness business, right? But they're often seen as a commodity, an expendable commodity, because of the volume of them available. And what we've come across now in this interesting digital age is that people have been thrown in to do it themselves now. And a lot of them have thrived, and they've realized that they don't need the gyms anymore. They can do it all on own, or they can hire a location, or they can do a series of different roadshow videos and travel from place to place and pay, charge bigger tickets. I mean, look at things like Joe Wicks has done his roadshow and stuff for free. This is the beginning, right? We're going to start see people hiring venues all over the country and charging £150 for an experience.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, look at like James Smith, and increasingly it's like fitness personalities.
Yeah,
coming out, and it's like it's actually creating a new marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And if
entertainment and information.
Yeah, and if there's any further convincing you need to invest in your own talent, being a presenter on camera, especially is look at how these people are being consumed by, today's standardized media. James Smith being on Good Morning Britain or whatever it was, and and doing a roadshow, and Ant Middleton now doing his own tours.
Joe Wicks had a TV show, right? Didn't Joe Wicks have a TV show on Channel 4 or Netflix?
I'm not sure about that, but he's certainly the fitness, personality of the moment, wasn't he? Of the moment, isn't he? So,
and then there'll be someone else next year, but it's still it's a new market. This kind of, back in the day we had Mr. Motivator, right, in the UK, but increasingly people want to be entertained as well as educated.
Yeah, and a lot of businesses are seeing the opportunity. Equinox opening up their talent hub, as well as other branded players now. Peloton doing, recruiting new talent recruitment specialists to find the next up and coming talent, because they know that they're the people that drive the future.
Well, in the States, with SoulCycle, I'm friends with a girl who's a flywheel instructor in America, and she's like one of their rock stars, and she gets flown between LA and New York and does all the press, and she's got like a real business based on the fact that she's a popular instructor at Flywheel. That. But because people adore her, she's made millions. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And we saw a micro experience of this, or a micro example of this, decades ago, when your instructor would leave a club and say, I'm not teaching there anymore, and they would go to the other club across the road. What happens is the members go there instead. They follow the instructors, right? We've seen it happen. So, and the same, when I were talking about group fitness instructors here, but the same applies to you becoming a PT or a coach or a football, trainer or whatever it happens to be, is that when they found you, they don't want to lose you, because people are loss averse. Yeah. Like when they found the thing that's good, they don't want to let it go. So, trying to battle that idea again, that people fail to see their self-worth, and they feel maybe a little bit of a prop in the industry, or have done in the past. Like, you are so unbelievably talented and unique, you don't know it, right? Or the only thing is, you've got obscurity to deal with right now, because no one knows who you are or how to find you. And effectively, that's what any sort of marketing is being able to be the green ball in a sea of white ones and stand out a mile. Yeah. And that's what the battle is for anybody running a business online now.
Yeah, learn how to shine a light on yourself.
Yeah, instead of saying, I've coined this phrase, and you can use it if you want to, but everyone's trying to be everything to somebody. Really, you should be everyone's trying to be something to everybody, but really you want to be everything to just somebody, right? Yeah. It's just a more refreshing way of thinking about it, and it kind of takes the pressure off, right? Kind of gives everything a little bit more perspective, because once you start saying, I am trying to be like something to everybody, and if you've been doing that for as long as it is until now, how's that going?
Exhausting, frustrating,
tiring, exhausting,
and you're so right. So where are you off to on your month off?
We're moving.
You are, aren't you? Yeah, because you're near me at the moment, aren't you?
That's it. So just down the road. So moving from West London over to Taunton, the West Country.
Lovely.
It's going to be great over there. Looking forward to being an hour from the coast in either direction, sort of thing. So looking forward to that. But I think that's one of the fears I had, and that's why I've been in London for so long, since 2000 really, and is this idea that everything always happened in London, right? If you were going to get work, you would go to London, follow the Yellow Brick Road, try and get there, and you'll succeed. You'll thrive. Heavily densely populated area. There's better chances for business. And that's what I thought. And then for the last couple of years, I've been everywhere but in London. Like everywhere. I'm like, why am I so close to London? So we're moving away, getting away from the big smoke, a bit more countryside, which I'm really looking forward to. Because I've loved the outdoor stuff, and just looking forward to seeing what life is like with a little bit of a slower pace, drinking cider on the weekends.
I love it. So how can people? What kind of things do you do which people can access, or what's the best way for people to learn from you, as it were?
Go to LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's what I do. You're great on LinkedIn. You're so good on that, man. You're so good on that platform. You're always giving great advice.
I love it. And I think anybody listen to this, once you find your voice on a platform, especially LinkedIn, like once you know what you want to talk about, like you love it, because you start to see the benefits from sharing that information. Yeah. And I'm not getting, 500,000 views on my videos, or 200 comments on my stuff, I might get one comment. I might get, 100 views on a video, but I know that people are paying attention, people are watching.
Mm-hmm. And you're building your credibility as the go-to guy.
Exactly.
And when people do need you, be it for a podcast or be it to hire you, you're in the you're in front of their brain, which is what we want.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And think pretty much, LinkedIn is a business to business platform primarily, right? So if you're looking to sell your services to other businesses, it's so important. You can't do that on Facebook. If you're business to consumer, then Facebook's probably going to be more of your strategy, and Instagram Live. But don't spread yourself so thinly. Like I'm like 95, 98% in on LinkedIn, 2%, I don't know where else.
What's your handle on LinkedIn?
Just linkedin.com/Richard Playfair. That's it.
Easy. Everyone check them out. Look, Rich, thank you so much for your time today. Fascinating. Didn't quite know where today's conversation was going to go, but a lot more about the branding and strategy. Fascinating. And I'm going to remind me, what's the name of that wireless mic? Is it Rode?
Rode Wireless Go. Yeah.
And there's a second, I like the idea of getting two, so you can do like interviews and stuff.
Yeah, the Rode Wireless Go.
I'm going to treat myself to one now. So thank you.
Friday after all.
Thank you so much. I deserve it.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in to Business School, the official podcast of the Dan Roberts Academy. To find out more about how we help coaches, instructors, and fitness entrepreneurs upskill and enjoy more success, please see danrobertsgroup.com or follow us on Instagram at the Dan Roberts Academy.